99% of farmers today are bleeding money and by a massive, massive dollar amount there, but most of them don't even realize it. If you've ever wondered, where the heck is all my cash going? Then today's video is just what you need to hear. I'm going to show you where the money is leaking out of your operation, what's causing it, and how to stop the bleeding before it turns into a full-on financial crisis. Now, this isn't just a bookkeeping problem. It's literally a difference between having control and not having control inside of your operation. And when you don't have control, then the things that do actually have control over you are your lenders, your cash flow, and your stress. Now, all the operations that we've had come into Legacy Farmer over the years, all of them were bleeding or leaking money out the bottom of their operation. But it wasn't because they were bad business owners. It's simply because they didn't have a system to structure, organize, and package their numbers in a way that would allow them to see how much they're bleeding, but also drive sound business decisions. Because at the end of the day, one principle will always be true, and that is what does not get managed cannot get measured. And most farmers today, they're bleeding money, but when you ask them how much, they're not gonna be able to tell you because they're not tracking their finances at the level of detail that is demanded by the economic environment that we're all playing this game of business in today. And unfortunately, inside today's economy, guessing doesn't cut it anymore. The numbers are getting massive, and every single day, people are making $50,000, $100,000, $500,000 decisions. For some of you, it's millions of dollars every single day that's going through your operation or going through your account there, and the numbers just keep getting bigger. And one big problem with this, though, is that we've seen such a massive increase in what it takes to actually run an operation today compared to what it was in early 2000s when our feed yard was up and running, for example, that most people, they get numb to the finances. They get numb to the zeros. The numbers are becoming so big that most people, they can't comprehend it very well, or they try to, and it stresses them the hell out, rightfully so. And so they just try to do everything they can to bury that emotion and just go on running the operation like they hope to, but reality always comes back and punches them in the face because those numbers, if you do not give them the level of respect that they deserve, again, inside of today's economic environment that we're all playing this game of business in, they're going to come back and hit you in the face really hard. And some people, it could knock them out of the industry altogether. And that's consistently what we've seen at Legacy Farmer or customers coming into Legacy Farmer trying to avoid that type of scenario hitting their family farm operation. So at the end of the day, if you are not updating your balance sheet and your monthly cash flow projections on a monthly basis, I guarantee you that you are bleeding tens of thousands of dollars. That's not something I'm just pulling out of thin air or anything like that. That's literally come from working with hundreds of family farm operations and going into the weeds on their finances and seeing the dollar amounts that are bleeding out of these operations. And I don't care if it's $500,000 that you're doing a year in revenue or it's $5 million. The more you're doing in revenue, the more you are losing financially. And ultimately, when you don't know where the bleeders are coming from, but you know they're there, that sends every farmer, rancher, and ag business owner into this place of scarcity, which makes us want to avoid the numbers even that much more because the fear that we have around what the numbers will actually show us when we get them structured and organized and to a place of clarity where we can actually see what the heck's going on there. That fear is too much, honestly, for a lot of people to handle. And I completely get it, right? I'm not talking down to people or anything. I've had my personal experiences with that. But after working through that type of situation and that fear with so many farmers or ranchers from across the country over the years, I know it's there for people, right? And the thing is we push that away. We'd rather go work 3,500 to 4,000 hours on the farm operation and spend less than 10 hours in the office actually looking at the finances, which are the true heartbeat of the business. Without that finance position there, you don't have a business. So is letting scarcity and fear win actually serving you and where you want to get your operation to in the future? Probably not. The next point I want to make is that if you don't actually take control and real honest financial control where you have confidence, certainty, and clarity in your finances, somebody else will eventually, right? And so what I saw inside of my banking days is for my customers back then that would not put together their balance sheet, or if they did, it was just a half-ass put together one. I know none of the values on it are accurate. So then I have to go do my own due diligence. And then I got to put together monthly cash flow projections. With those customers that I was doing that with, they did not understand how much power they were giving to the bank, right? If you expect your loan officer to go through and put together all of your financial information, which I know is happening a lot inside the industry today still, you are giving over all the power and leverage to them. There is no circumstance where you should be expecting your banker or your accountant even to be telling you how your business is doing. That is your responsibility as a business owner to make sure you are getting the knowledge, the education, the resources, the systems, the processes, whatever you need there to make sure you're leading and driving your business, not somebody else. And the longer you avoid taking control of the finances, the more other people around you are going to be able to take advantage of you because you're giving them that power. And that type of scenario right there is exactly why over the years we've created the Legacy Farmer Proven System. And we've done this with hundreds of customers that have come through our Legacy Farmer program since 2019. Now, if you're serious about running your farm operation like a true business and you want to have confidence, clarity, and ultimately certainty in your finances and the decisions you're making going forward, then this is where you start. All right, so the first part of the problem inside today's video was if you don't have any tracking systems in place, you're not structured and organized with your numbers, it's a guarantee you are losing tens of thousands of dollars. Again, if you're doing 5 to 10 million a year in revenue, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars per year, right? When you think about that, let's say you're running a $10 million operation and you're bleeding $250,000 per year. When you think about it, that's 2.5% of your total revenue. That's a massive, massive number. And with the margins inside of ag being so small for profitability there, that 2.5% is a massive, massive number here. And so this is why you have to get very serious around taking control of those numbers. But this leads us into the second problem here that we want to talk about inside today's video, which is when you're losing money, that turns into bad debt, which turns into bad interest. So a lot of people every year, they're wondering where all their cash is going. Yes, a lot of people are bleeding money, but when you look at all the expenses on the cash flow, which we have all of our customers go through and we help them step by step put together monthly cash flow projections for each one of their businesses, not just the farm and the entire family operation as a whole, for their cattle operation, for their farm operation, for their service business, whatever that is there. So we actually have a level of clarity into how each business is really functioning, and that's going to drive a bunch of different decisions that I won't get into on this video here, but it just compounds, right? And you start changing the way that you're running the business. But when we're doing that though, the interest number on term debt from bad loans because you were careless or didn't have the structure and organization of your numbers, you made the bad financial decision, whatever that is, that interest number in today's economic environment with higher interest rates is sinking family farm operations. I can't even imagine how it was back in the 80s with 18 or 20% interest rates. No wonder everybody went under then. But even today at 6, 7, 8, 9%, it's sinking family farm operations, right? And on that term debt though, that's where it's really bad. On the line of credit, I can deal with a 9.5, 10.5%. It's not really worth ruining your relationship with your banker, arguing over some points there. But each situation is also different though too, right? So I may guide you differently based on what your overall financial picture is and what your relationship is with that bank. But the term debt, if you are carrying a loan for $1 million on 8%, 9% debt or whatever that is there, that compounds and that eats up a massive amount of your profits or revenue coming into your operation every single year. And most people, they just turn a blind eye to it, right? They just accept it for what it is, and then they don't make changes because of it because they think their banker's watching their numbers for them, right? Which is obviously a massive, massive mistake there. But that's where, again, just over the years of looking at all these financials with these farm operations, that's been a big problem as well. And so, again, going back to step one, when you get to the structure and organization with your balance sheet and your cash flow, that's going to change your relationship with your banker, because now everything that we do in Legacy Farmer is showing you how the bank is using that information to justify giving you an 8% rate on your term loan or a 9.5 or 10.5% rate on your operating line of credit. And most people, they fall for it. They'll give into the bank and think that they don't have choices or anything there. But when you have structure and organization and you know how the bank is using that information to determine your interest rate, you now have the leverage. But again, if you're not tracking your numbers, you're not in control, like I said earlier in the video, you're giving all that power and leverage to the bank there. And so when you're getting 8.5, 10.5% or whatever on loans, don't complain about it because you're allowing them to do that to you versus the other way here, when you're structured, organized, going in there with a plan and then know how they play the game of business and how they determine your interest rate or whatever that is there, you have all the cards. Right? You have ultimate power there. And that's why when everybody else the past 2 or 3 years has been getting 8 to 10.5% or whatever it is on operating lines, our customers have consistently gotten a full percent up to 2.5% cheaper on their interest rates on their operating lines and on term loans because they're so well structured and organized financially. Everything is put together. The bank does not have to worry about them. They are a grade A customer for that bank. That is the easiest interest that bank is ever going to make. And so they will do whatever they have to keep that customer. That is the type of power and leverage that I want all of our customers to have inside a Legacy Farmer. And that proven system that I was talking about earlier, That's what we've built out to make sure all of our customers are in that type of a position there. And it's just over the years, guys, it's changed everything for these people. There's been so many good things that have come from it, but also too, when you start cleaning things up, right? It may be tough in the beginning because you're exposing all the problems and all these challenges, and the weight of it finally sets in for you. But when we get that foundation in place there, now we have something to build up off of. And we've just seen it change people so much, not just from how they run the operation, but how they operate inside their family, right? We know that bad farm operations with a lot of debt and financial stress and everything, it carries over into the family, right? It's just, it's going to, right? There's no separation there, and it's impossible for that to happen there. But once you get that structure and that clarity there, we've just seen so many compounding benefits it's had in our members' lives there when they get this stuff structured and organized. And for the first time, feel like they're in control over the future of their farm operation. So the thing is, inside today's economic environment, you cannot afford to continue bleeding money. Right. And what's crazy is how many people are not taking this with the level of seriousness that our economic environment demands today. You have to be structured, organized, and extremely detailed in every dollar and tracking every dollar that goes through your operation, because it's going through your bank account regardless. But most people have zero intention on directing that dollar and where it's going. And this is where the game changes when you get that structure and organization in place. And this is exactly what we've done with our customers over the past 5 or 6 years. They have the right training, they have the right education, they have the right leaders or coaches, they have the right support, and they have the right system to keep their farm operation out of financial chaos and have a level of confidence, clarity, and certainty over their future that they've never had before. So if that's what you want, then it's time for you to plug into the Legacy Farmer Proven System. Click the link below this video. You'll sign up for the free training, and we'll see you inside.